Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
And I'm Ron.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in last week. Sorry I couldn't be on the show. I was a little under the weather. Thank everybody for all their get well wishes I had. Paul was definitely he was an amazing guest to have, and I hate that I missed that because I had all these questions wrote down, all the stuff I wanted to ask Paul, and then I got sick and I was kind of bummed out about missing the show, and I went back and watched the recording, and it just made me even more upset that I wasn't on the show,
Well, don't lose your questions because I got a feeling he'll be back one of these days. So
yeah, definitely. So before we get started, thank everyone who watched any or all of the other episodes. Please get on the Facebook page, like the Facebook page, share it, share the YouTube page, comment on us. All your feedback is very much appreciated.
yeah, we've got a lot of comments on other pages, not on our pages, and it's good to read them and see them. And the guys in England seem to like it, so I
Right.
Comments yesterday, and
it's cool. It's cool to see it kind of going worldwide, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of international.
Yeah, definitely.
International.
So first of all, we got a couple congrats we want to give out. Joe Dirt, or most people know him as Joe Dirt. Joe Lagoria and Cap Henry both won some 1-to-1 sprint car races this weekend. So big shout out to them for that.
Yep.
And I also saw today on Facebook, it looks like Aaron Farrell, who owns the Slot Car Cave in South Carolina, looks like he and his brother have a tractor trailer, and they're helping deliver some stuff down to Houston area.
Oh, cool.
Harvey victims. So
Cool.
attaboy to them. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
big attaboy, and good luck and be safe.
Yeah. So what kind of racing we got going on this weekend? Anything?
Oh, this weekend, kind of a busy weekend. We've got, of course, the Legends race. We've been talking about that the last couple shows. Legends race at Mid-America in Naperville, Illinois. And I got thinking about this a little bit. This race is kind of unique because you basically got 4 classes under 4 different sanctionized bodies.
Right, yeah.
ISTA and Mid-American Hard Body Series and the Retro Can-Am and FNRS GTP. So, 3 different tracks, USCA 4.5-inch on the oval, and then hard bodies on the LTD that used to be Dave Fiedler's, and then Can-Am and GTP on the King track. So it's a kind of unique event, and there seems to be tons of interest. I think that the hard body class will probably be the biggest class, but I don't think the other 2 or 3 will be too far behind. So that'll be all day Saturday. That'll probably be a long day. So.
And speaking of, you said USCA, right? USCA classes.
Yeah, USCA 4.5-inch stock car.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking of the Central Illinois series there for a second, and I think I read somewhere that the current director, Kurt Vincent, was going to step down, and they were looking for somebody to kind of fill that role.
Right. I think, he's stepping down because of his work and last year in school, and they want the series to keep going. So I'm sure someone's going to step up and take it over. I hope so. I mean, I went to a couple events the last couple of years and had lots of fun, and it's a cool little series, and hopefully someone will step up. And
yeah, I dealt with Kurt a little bit. He was ordered some plaques and stuff from me and some decals and stuff like that, and he was always real easy to work with, and he always seemed very, very enthusiastic.
Right.
Run the series. So I know the guys up there appreciate him for doing that last few years.
Yeah, Kurt's a really good guy. A little laid back, which, I mean, that's okay, but he gets along with everybody, and he'll discuss things, and he'll listen, and I hope he comes back at some point and stays involved.
Yeah.
Slot racing needs more people like him, so.
Yeah.
So,
you got the Legends race, and then you got the Retro Summit coming up too?
Well, also this weekend is the opening kickoff series race for the Mid-South Slot Car Association down at Adrenaline Speedway in Randall, North Carolina.
Okay. Hmm.
And I haven't really paid attention to their rules too much. I think, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I think they might have dropped or maybe swapped out a class for something else this year. But I think it's pretty much business as usual this year for them. Or maybe they had a motor change or something in a class or two. But
Okay.
I think their series will probably be a little bigger this year. It's growing. I think it's on the upsweep. So we'll see.
Yeah, I know the TSRA. I know they announced their schedule, and it looks like they're going to swap over to some FNRS rules, I think.
Right, and I noticed that I think they're going to go to a couple of different tracks this year.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been at the past, so they're kind of expanding a little bit themselves.
Well, I think that as long as those two series work together, I think it can play into both their favors too.
Right.
They get a lot of crossover racers.
Yeah, definitely.
So anybody who's in the Carolina area, they got a lot of always have had really a lot of racing
right
to choose from.
But yeah, September's a very busy month. Like I said, this weekend Legends Race Mid-South. Next weekend's the Retro Summit at Mark's Model World in Canton, Ohio. And contrary to rumors out there, a lot of people that's listening to this probably has never been to Mark's, but Mark's is in Canton, Ohio, and across the street and down the street a block or so is the entrance to the NFL Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And that is going through a major expansion. Like where the entrance is and across from Mark's, a couple blocks, there's a gas station there and all these houses. Well, the Hall of Fame has bought all that land out. And all them homes and everything will be torn down, and new buildings will be built. And I'm sure there's probably going to be like some kind of park there or something. But when I was at the race at Tri-State, the Lee Watson race, there was talk that the city board, had voted to annex like the property where Mark's is, and they wanted a hotel built on Mark's property within 2 years. So.
Okay.
It was like, oh, that's interesting. So I talked to Mark Keto 2 days after I heard that, and he says, well, that's his landlord, owner of the property he's on, hasn't heard anything from anybody. This little town took a vote, and it passed, but it's still got to be passed by the city of Canton, which, like he said, there'll be lawsuits involved and stuff like that. So Mark's is safe. He's going to be there for a while unless something drastically happens, but,
And I'm sure if something drastic happened, I'm sure he would move.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Mark will definitely move.
Close up or anything.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's already said that, he always has his eye open for a different building, but he hasn't had to make that move or wanted to make that move yet. So if he knows things are coming 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, then he may start looking. But
And speaking of potentially losing a king track, I saw that Mimi's has decided to use their space they had dedicated for slot racing. They kind of want to use that for something else, so that king track is going away.
Yeah, that king track. Well, that king track was the king track they used in 2005, I think.
It's G4, right?
Yeah, I believe that's it. Yeah, because they had the Nats in 2003, and then they replaced that track. I'm almost positive they replaced that track with G4. So, and even prior to the previous track in 2003, I mean, Mimi's has had a King's track since the late 90s that I know of. Maybe far back as the mid 90s, but she's in a big industrial type building, and she's had the RC cars in there before and since 2003. So they just had a big a Roar. I think it was a off-road Nats, but they just had a big Nats. They took the King track out for pit space, and I guess now the King track's not coming back. And I think I also read on Facebook that it's possibly for sale or it may be for sale. So
yeah, because I know I guess is it John Davis, JD? He owns the track, and I know Roman kind of owns all the power and everything for it, but they are looking to give it a new home. So if anybody has any interest in owning a slot car track in that area, now's your time.
Right, and like JD said, if the track's just going to sit in storage, he wants to sell it. But I honestly think they want to get it back up and running somewhere, but I don't know if and when that would happen. So
yes. It'd be great if it could find a new home.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Always. Okay. And then after the Retro Summit, the following week, you've got OCC. Their series kicks off on the 23rd. And the following weekend, the 30th of September, you've got Penn, Ohio Retro kicking off. And then you've got the Great Lakes Retro kicking off.
How many seasons have they been going now, Penn, Ohio? Any idea?
Ooh, I'm going to make a guess. I'd have to look it up. But I'm thinking this is either their 7th or 8th series, I think.
I was going to guess 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think they started in 2008 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it'd be right there, somewhere I guess between 6 or 8 years.
Okay.
Because they were one of the first regions after. Well, you've had Retro East, then we had the Sano, and the IRA was created, and then the Ohio Valley Retro Racing Association started, and I think the Penn, Ohio started not too long after that.
Right.
So OVRR became ORS. So that's been around since 2008. And then I think Penn, Ohio started the following year. So, yeah, I guess we're at 8 years.
Well, congrats to them. I mean, anytime you get a series going from more than 1 or 2 years, it's an accomplishment, really.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, that's September. I mean, like I said, September's pretty busy with those groups. And, I mean, of course, you still got all the other – I mean, there's a Penn Jersey race this weekend, too, on Sunday.
I think they're at Fast Tracks, I believe.
Yep. I think that's the hill climb there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they're going to run their Cup and Xfinity classes.
Right.
So –
yeah, and I thought their races were normally on Saturdays, but for some reason this race is going to be on Sunday. So
okay,
I don't know why or if there's a reason, but this Sunday. So
with all this racing going on, this kind of I'm going to bring up a question I got for you.
Okay.
So now we're everyone's kind of getting into their the beginning of their official racing season. And I know you do a lot of racing. I mean, sometimes it seems like you're racing almost every weekend for a month or two at a time.
Yep.
So what do you do? How do you keep all your cars organized, and how do you prepare for so many classes? I mean, what are some things that you do to stay organized and prepared for all your upcoming races?
Well, a big pile. No. Okay, we raced down at Tri-State. I guess it'll be 2 weeks ago this weekend. So that wasn't so much of a big turn and burn to get ready to go to Rogers this weekend. But it all kind of intertwines for me because, and it's probably 2/3 of it's retro racing for me, and then the other third's flexi racing. But a lot of the events we run both retro cars and flexi cars. So one good thing about the flexi side of it, we pretty much run. Now we're running the FNRS GTP rules, like in the Great Lakes Midwest Slot Car Series combo races. And, if I go to FNRS race and my stuff's legal for that, then it's going to be legal for when I come back here. So other than cleaning up cars and maybe mounting some new bodies and stuff, there's not a whole lot of changeover. Now, like, for example, this weekend I'm going to race USCA 4.5-inch stock cars in GTP. Next week, I'm going to go to the Retro Summit and just race Can-Am and F1 and Retro Angle Winder. Then the following weekend is the USCA race up at Forrest Hoover's at the Track Raceway in South Bend. So I don't know if I'm going to that race yet or not, but the only cars I'll have to prepare for different classes, like I'll have the 4.5-inch cars ready from this weekend. It'll be ready for that race because it's on an oval too. Other than mounting a new body, which I already have bodies. I have bodies I'm going to race this weekend plus extra ones that are brand new, ready to go. So
So do you have like any kind of like a do you have like a checklist or like a just have like a mental list you go through? Like say you're racing the same cars on back-to-back weekends.
Right. And sometimes I make lists, and a lot of it's mental because like this, like I sat here and I'm like getting this 4.5-inch car ready. I'm like, okay, I'm getting this ready for a race 2 weeks after this weekend, and then 2 or 3 weeks after that, well, no, actually in November will be the Yuska Nats. So it's going to be back at Rogers. So whatever I built for this weekend and I use and I learn, I'm already thinking ahead for November.
Okay.
So, you know, like I came back from Tri-State where I just raced the 3 retro classes plus the flexi class. And, you know, basically just going through and cleaning stuff up, you know, checking lead wires, make sure they're not ready to break, putting new braid in some of the cars that had old braid or shot braid for practice or racing. I always pull the tires off usually before I leave the track and put them back in tubes. So I come home and open up the box and I pull the cars out and just take a inventory, a list of what I need to replace or fix or look for, just basic maintenance. You know, like lead wires is the big thing for me because, you know, they can be broken. You can't even see it. So you pull back the insulation a little bit, take a look, make sure they're not breaking or split. And, you know, if you find a bad one, you replace it. So then it's just clean the cars up, pull the bodies off everything, clean the cars up. And then some cars will have new bodies that I didn't race. I just practiced, and they're good enough to be raced at the next race if need be. And then the bodies that I raced, if they're pretty beat up, then I'll just mount new bodies on replace bodies basically for those chassis.
And retro bodies tend to last a little bit longer than bodies anyway.
Yeah. So like, I mean, like when I went to Tri-State, I think I had 9 flexi cars together, and all the bodies on them I wouldn't race, but they're good for practice. But right. I had 2 brand new bodies to try or to use if I needed them, and we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But yeah, I had 2 different, same body, but just different. Tested both bodies and raced the body that worked best that day. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, but the problem is when you're going to go to a race, like when I go to the Yuska, if I go to the Yuska race in 2 weeks, I'll have to take motors out of some of my flexi cars and replace them with Falcon 7 motors and Hawk 7 motors because the 4-inch NASCAR class is Falcon 7, and then the LMP class is the Hawk 7. So I got to take at least 2 cars, pull motors out, change motors, and then I don't have to mount any LMP bodies. I got a ton of LMP bodies. So that's all we raced last year up here, and I got plenty of those that are in good enough condition to go race with. So fortunately, I don't have to mount any of those. So, but
I think you're going to do a video, right? Now hopefully everyone's seen your Pentube video. But you're going to have other videos for us soon?
So yeah, okay. So I did a video this weekend on body armor and reinforcing bodies. So I'm not going to go into big details about it, but I mean I just basically show how to kind of trim a body as far as cut the wheel wells out or put the body armor in, then do all your cutting and your taping. So I just showed stuff like taping, some tricks and some basics and you know, how to mark wheel wells and cut them out nice, make them nice and smooth, and where to put body armor at, and talked about the different thicknesses of body armor and how you can tune a body, which going back to that GTP thing with 2 bodies, you know, I have one body built with 5 thousandths body armor in the back, and the other one has 10 thousandths. So, you know, one definitely flexes more than the other, might collapse a little bit more, but you know, you go out and you run and you try the one body and okay, the car goes so fast or whatever, and you put the other body on and either it goes better or worse, and you say, okay, I'm going to run this body today. So watch the video and you'll find out more in the madness of my mind on this body tuning deal with body armor and stuff.
Yep, and you guys can find that on the Between the Lanes YouTube page, and there'll probably be a link on Facebook too.
Yep, and that'll be up after the show is over Wednesday night.
And hopefully for next week's show, I'll have a body mounting video done also. And I'm going to do a couple of GTP bodies and want to run COT NASCAR bodies since it's so popular. I paint them all. I've got them all painted, and I just got to get a little bit of time to sit down and do the video. But when we air the video, I want to give away all the painted bodies that I cut out and mounted in the video. So we'll do some kind of fun contest.
Sure.
To try to be a little bit more interactive and give people some stuff here.
And I've seen the bodies. I mean, I've seen the painted bodies, and you guys, well, I don't know how many you're going to give away, but
yeah, probably all of them.
Everybody will probably want these bodies, so everyone will have to enter, and you'll be happy with them. Ralph did a real nice job painting them, so look really good.
Okay, so obviously there's this huge topic going on in slot racing right now the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Huge.
And I didn't really want to bring it up on the show, but based on all the emails and PMs and everything I get, I feel like I'm going to do our listeners a disservice if I don't bring this up. So
all right.
I got to ask you, what is your opinion on JK pulling out of the distributors?
Okay, my opinion, and I've made some public posts on this. I mean, there's 2 issues at hand. One issue is him pulling out of distributors, which I think is this question. The second issue is his direct retail mail order sales, which kind of competes against the raceways he's selling to. So
right.
We'll talk about pulling out of distributors. As a manufacturer, and dealing with distributors since basically 1990. I mean, from my time at Parma through my time to today. Mm-hmm. That really, okay, my opinion on that whole deal is I don't care if he pulls out of a distributor or not. That's his business. That's his decision. You know, if that hurts the distributors, then they have to deal with that with him. Like, I don't think there's anything I can say or do that would change his mind or help anybody that feels like they're losing out on this deal because he's pulled out of the distributors. It's his business decision. Whether it works for him or not, time is going to tell. You know, other manufacturers have attempted this in the past, and they all wound up basically back in the distributors. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but, you know, I mean, he made a bold move. Distributors aren't happy. Some raceways aren't happy because now they have to order from 2 different places. But most raceways, to be honest with you, they have to deal with 2 or more distributors to begin with to get 100% fill rate. And then even with that, they still deal direct with the manufacturers to get stuff. So,
right.
You know, and I know he's offering a little bit additional discount. I mean, I don't think that his discount, you know, some distributors, his discount is better, but some other distributors, his discount's about the same. So, like I said, it's his call, his deal, his business, his decision. He has to deal with it. I mean, racers don't care where the parts come from. As long as they can get the parts, they're happy. And if the tracks wind up getting better service, well, that's good for the tracks. But this is all sight to be seen, and time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think in the end, it's just going to be everyone has their own opinion and speculation and comments, but whether or not it really ends up working, or if it ends up working and is effective, are 2 different things, I think.
Right.
And nobody's going to know. Everyone's going to have to wait and see. You know, I had people call me today and say, "Hey, did you hear about this?" You know, I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of heard about that a couple weeks ago." Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a topic.
You know, I can comment from my perspective, and of course, I'm nowhere near as big as, you know, you or JK or ProSlot or any of those guys. But, you know, when I first started selling stuff, I think I was a teenager. You know, I was probably 13 or 14, you know, and I just had small things. I had like some guide nuts and some lead wire and maybe some lead weight or something, right? Nothing that anybody wanted, but it was a lot to me at the time.
Right.
And, I called the distributors up, and, they laughed at me, and they said, yeah, you call us back in 10 years, click.
Right.
And so here I am. I'm trying to break into the industry. I'm trying to kick the doors down. I'm all gung ho, and everyone's laughing at me. So, my next step is literally I carried this box with me, this little shoe box with me, and I had it full of stuff. And every time I went to a raceway, I'd go make a sales pitch to the raceway owner. And maybe 10% of the time they would buy one or two things, probably because they felt sorry for me, really. So, but I was serious about it, and I wanted to make it happen, So after failing with distributors and pretty much failing with my door-to-door with the raceways, that left me with only one more option, and that was with direct sales.
Direct, yeah.
So basically, I had eBay, and I created a website. And I had my first website for many years. It was not very good, admittedly. But it got the job done, right? So it got my stuff out there, And then I kind of migrated to Facebook, and I've sort of perfected the Facebook craft, I'll say, as well as you have.
Right.
I don't think there's many people out there that really use Facebook as effective as they could, or as effectively as we do. So direct sales was all I had, and everyone wants to say, direct sales it's going to kill the hobby and all that, right? Well, sometimes there's no other option.
Correct.
And for me, that's where I was. And I've gone from barely anything to what I have now. And I do sell to ERI, and raceway owners can buy at a raceway discount, and I'll sell direct. So,
right.
It's not that I'm trying to be greedy by offering all three things. But some raceways won't buy from ERI. So I have to sell to raceways.
Right.
And then some racers don't have tracks, and I'm not in international distributors. So a lot of my stuff is international. So I have to have a platform for them to sell, so it's not just as cut and dry as I think some people want to think it is. I mean, there's a lot of layers involved that a lot of people don't realize. In a perfect world where everyone who makes stock car parts is rich, manufacturers only sell to distributors only sell to raceways, raceways sell to clubs and racers, right? That's the pipe dream flow chart, but it's not like that, and it's never going to be like that.
Well, okay, so you brought up a lot of things there, but with the distributors, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you come out with new products, or you come out with a new line, and you're just repackaging stuff that they've already got the same thing from 10 other manufacturers hanging on their wall,
right?
Your incentive to take your product. Okay, so they can buy a little bit of it and put it on their shelves and say, okay, I bought from you, now don't sell direct, don't sell to raceways, just sell to me. But how's anybody going to find out about your product sitting on their shelf unless they tell their customers about it, which some do, some don't.
Right.
So basically,
if they do, it's no more than like one newsletter. Maybe.
Right. And I'm not going to fault anybody, because I can say no one's at fault, and I can say everyone's at fault, because it is a giant mess. It's been a giant mess for years. So years ago, before we had the internet, if you came out with a new product or product line or whatever, in order to promote that, you had to buy an ad in the magazine. Okay, so a minimum ad would have been, I don't know, $50 to $100.
And that was just a little small square.
Yeah, just a small square in the magazine one time to let the world know that new lead wire or a new guide flag, or you've got tires or whatever. So,
but I'll add, back in the day when Slot Car Bulletin was out and they had those, I mean, whenever that issue came out, that was the first page I went to.
Was new products, right?
Right. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, back in the day before the internet, it would cost you money to tell the world about your product. Today, it costs you nothing. You just put it up on Facebook or Old Weird Herald or Slot Blog or any of the slot car sites. Hey, I've got this stuff. Here it is. And raceways and racers will be contacting you to buy it.
And it's instant.
Right. And even if you've offered to the distributors and they don't want it, and you start selling it direct, then they may come to you and say, I want to buy it, but I don't want you selling to all these other raceways and racers. So marketing in this country and this world has changed so much in the last 10 to 15 years. It's just impossible. Like you said, in the perfect world, manufacturer, distributor to raceway to the end-use consumer, which is the racer, those days are kind of gone. I mean, and then you throw mail order into it. Okay, like mail order is good, mail order is bad. Okay, so, but it's a necessary evil because there's a lot of raceways that won't order certain things for their racers.
That's a whole nother issue too.
And that's a whole nother issue,
Yeah.
but they won't order things or certain brands. Racer gets online nowadays. Boom, he has. I mean, I was at a race, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. I think it was we were down in Durham. Somebody wanted to buy something. The track didn't have it. They got their phone out, went to one of the mail order pages, and ordered it and paid for it right there and then, and said, I'll be at my house on Tuesday.
And a track like that is a perfect example because their parts case is probably like as big as my shelf right here, right? And they don't really, and they're an RC place.
Yes.
So they don't really care. I mean, I won't say they don't care, but there's not as much incentive to put an effort on selling slot car parts to them, so they don't order a lot of slot car parts, and they don't pay attention to the slot car stuff.
Well, and they don't have the interest. And I'm not knocking them in any way. I mean,
no, me either.
If it wasn't for RC cars, there probably wouldn't be a slot car track there.
Right, absolutely.
They're not solely depending or surviving on the slot car track.
Right.
They're making their deal on the RC cars. So
but everybody who races there still has to get their parts from someplace. So, by not putting in the time and the effort, I mean, they are losing the money, but somebody else is getting the money.
But I know that when their racers have asked for things, they have ordered it for their racers.
Right.
So
right.
While it may not be there, they may have a big area for slot car stuff. They do seem to be willing and make that effort to order the stuff for their racers when they ask for it.
I was at a track, I think I've told you a story before. I was at a track not that long ago, and I think I had some donuts with me. And a guy there wanted to buy 20 pairs of donuts, one of the local racers. And so I was there racing, and the guy said, did you bring those donuts? I said, yeah. I said, hold on, though. And I went to the track owner. I said, hey, your guy here wants to buy 20 pairs of donuts. I said, have him pay you this much money, and then you give me X amount. And he says, nah, you just sell them to him. I don't want to mess with that.
Yep. Well,
I'm trying to hand you free money, literally, but they don't. But it's like sometimes they just don't. They don't want to help themselves. And
I've seen race owners tell their racers when they've come to their counter and asked to special order something, they've told them, well, just order it from one of the online mail order places because I'm not going to deal with it.
All right.
It could be a $10 part, it could be a $100 part. I've seen it. Just order it online and get it.
And as a manufacturer, just because you sell a product, that doesn't mean that the distributors are going to order it and every raceway in America is going to order it.
No.
It's not a given, So you still have to sell direct. I mean, if you could just sell just to raceways, JK would just be selling to just raceways, in my opinion.
Right. I know. Okay, I know what you're saying.
I mean, but you have to offer it
Well,
retail. You still have to offer it.
as a manufacturer,
Right? Yes, absolutely.
well,
Now, with that said, I mean, we prefer you buy it from the raceway. Don't get us wrong.
right.
But that option still has to be there.
I mean, basically, my feeling is if a manufacturer pulls out of a distributor in order to serve the raceways better, meaning faster, quicker, 100% fill rate, I think that if a racer contacts that manufacturer and says, I need this or this or this, the manufacturer should say, contact this raceway. It's the closest to you. They're our customer, and they can get it for you that quick because it's in stock and can be shipped today.
Yeah.
So is there a need for a manufacturer in that situation to compete against the raceways for the sell? I don't care if you're giving back 10%, 15%, 40%. Do you really need to deal with the retail sales when you got raceways that'll fill those retail sales? But again,
well, it really just depends on how many raceways are carrying your product too.
Right. And I mean, again, if a guy calls in from Alaska, has no raceway around him, okay, I can see maybe shipping something to that guy. But at the same time, you get to that guy, you know what, why don't you contact this raceway in Northern California or maybe in Washington or Oregon. They should have it in stock. If not, I can ship right to them. They can ship right to you. And then it's that chain, manufacturer minus the distributor in that case, manufacturer, raceway to racer.
And I mean, I would say, and I'm not trying to pick on Tim at JK by any means. But
right. No, I'm not either. I mean,
I would say that I don't think there's probably a raceway in the United States that doesn't have a JK product on the wall. I mean,
no.
He's probably by far the largest
right.
manufacturer in the United States now.
Well, he's probably one of the top three.
Yeah. Who would you say is bigger than JK? If you had to guess?
I don't know about bigger, but I would say just as big.
Okay.
Like Colford and possibly Pro Slot.
Okay.
So, and I mean, maybe Parma's still in there. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the big stuff that they would sell dollar wise is hard to get, like ready runs and controllers. But supposedly that's coming back online. So
yeah, that's the whole other part of this thing too. Is a lot of people don't realize is JK has kind of left this huge void with the distributors. So now the distributors are scrambling, and it gives guys like you and I and the other smaller manufacturers or whatnot
an
opportunity to try to fill that void with them, or maybe somebody completely new getting in the game.
Right.
Somebody like Parma coming back online, maybe you might see Parma ready to run cars and more Parma stuff now. I mean, so everything is kind of really shifting around right now behind the scenes too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know, I've talked with several manufacturers in the last, since this has happened, last 2 weeks, I guess. And
yeah,
a bunch of them are ramping up. I mean, there's guys right now going over to China and stuff, getting ready to source stuff. So, there's going to be more new chassis, more new motors, more this, more that, because it's just going to happen.
I mean, I'm sure Tim probably has a percentage or monetary number in mind that if it reaches or doesn't reach his number, that he'll say, hey, this worked out or this didn't work out or something. Nobody knows what that is or anything, but I think Tim's probably going to be okay.
Well, yeah, I don't – my thing from the whole get-go was there was nothing there that's like going to double his business. I mean, there's really nothing there that's going to increase his business because the raceways, when they wanted his stuff, would order from a distributor. Okay, and the only thing was if the distributor didn't have it, then the raceway didn't get it. Okay, but at the same time, the raceway could get it. I mean, the distributor could order it and then get it to the raceway maybe a week or two later. Okay,
right? Yeah.
So he might lose something temporary, but he would get it. Now, the other problem where they might lose the sales was substitution of another brand of the same item. But
Right, because the distributor can say, well, we don't have this, but let me recommend this.
right, and some raceway owners are very adamant on what they want. So
Right.
I don't see where this is like going to increase the JK business. I don't think this isn't going to increase his online retail sales because he was already doing that before with no kickback to the tracks. So nothing's changed in that. So I just don't see where it's,
Yeah, and there's a lot,
and it's going to cost him more to operate because now you got to have someone, you got to have people there to fill all the boxes and ship them and do all the extra paperwork. I mean,
yeah, you got to buy more shipping supplies. You got to have more labor shipping the stuff.
well, and when you're dealing with a distributor,
Dealing with
okay,
more returns, on and on.
right. When you're dealing with a distributor, you're filling one or several big boxes. Okay, out the door it goes. You're done till you do your next order. Okay, and like that could be the next day you start on the next distributor order. It might be a few days or it might be a week. Depends on how frequent they order. But when you got all these little orders coming in every day, and you know what it's like to do shipping. I mean, if you got to go run 20 labels, and that's something you just don't do in 5 minutes.
Right.
That's probably going to be close to an hour by the time you,
Right.
even if you got everything programmed in and you click, and wait for everything to print and then go out there and tape. And I mean, an hour's gone before you know it. And that doesn't.
You got to remember what label to put on what box too.
And that does, and see, that's another thing. So you ship a box, you take 2 boxes and flip the labels. You ship them to 2 raceways, and they get the wrong orders. They're going to ship back, and you got to pay for that, and then you got to pay to ship them back.
Right.
So yeah, you got to be pretty mistake free. I mean, but it's just a bunch of additional labor.
Right.
Going totally direct, and distributors don't make. I mean, distributors make the least amount in this whole deal. When you look at the numbers, the raceways actually make the most amount of money of any item. Okay, like if it's $1 part, the raceway is going to make 30 to 45 cents, depending on free shipping or you have pay shipping, or the distributors only got that 15% deal, and then the manufacturer, depending on his price and what he sells the distributor for, he might only be making 20 or 10, 20 or 30%. But the raceways always make the larger dollar amount of every dollar. They get 40 cents on every dollar.
And from the raceway owners that I've talked to, their take on this is all over the place.
Oh yeah,
I've seen some people just say, we no longer allow JK products. We no longer sell JK products. Everything JK's banned. I've seen some say, sent out emails and said, hey, if you need JK products, just order it online and we'll take the commission. I've seen some of them are upset because they get a commission. They feel like they should have got the sale, even though they got no idea where the sale came from.
right.
And then there's some are just completely happy with getting the commission, and they think, oh, I would have never had any money.
Right.
And, there's no way to know who bought, it's, you don't know who placed the order and who you got the commission from, which I think is the right thing to do, because otherwise I think people might be harassing people for buying,
Right.
not buying, So, you don't know where it's coming from. So you can't say, oh, I lost that sale, because you don't know if that's somebody that would ever bought from you anyway to begin with.
Right.
So it's just hard to say.
Right.
It's one of
No,
those
it
things,
is.
I always applaud anybody who stands up, especially when there's a lot of people looking down on them, or it's considered a bold move.
Right.
Anybody stands up for anything they believe in and just go out on a limb and do it, I applaud them no matter what it is. Good for Tim for standing up for what he felt was right. Was it right? We'll find out.
Time will tell.
So.
Time's going to tell. I mean,
yeah.
So, I've seen other manufacturers try this in the past, and they all wound up back at the distributors. So,
okay.
Like I said, not saying this is going to happen, but time will tell.
All right. So we got the JK Monkey off our back.
Moving right along.
All right. So I've got a segment I want to do. I've kind of had this in mind for a couple weeks. I haven't told you about this. And I want to do like a rapid fire question section. And I had this all set up for Paul, but again, I wasn't on the show. So I took some of his questions. I'm going to repurpose them to you.
Uh-oh.
So just give me a quick answer, but some of them might require a story. So if you got a good story, don't be afraid to throw the story in. Okay?
Cue the music.
All right. We'll start off with one. It should be easy for you. I don't know. What's the biggest race you've ever won?
Well, we talked about that last week.
Oh, there's so many. You can't remember them all.
Well, there's not some. Well, I mean, there's. I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of special races. Okay, so like, the biggest race I won, I think. Okay, I mean, it's right up there with them. But the biggest race that I won would have been the 2012 R4 race, Can-Am. We had 70 entries.
Yeah, because that was the largest one ever.
Largest one ever, and I won. So
nobody's ever beat that many people in a single race. So that's kind of cool.
Well, in a retro race.
Yeah.
There's been lots of other races that's had that many or more entries, but that was definitely. I mean, it's one thing to go beat 30 and 40 guys, but when you're at the top of the pile after 70 guys, that's a pretty good.
That's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your favorite style racetrack?
It's a toss-up between an American Orange or American Yellow.
American Yellow, really?
Yeah, Windsor. Well, that's what I started on. I just love that track. I haven't raced on one in.
I haven't been on probably almost 10 years.
Oh, it's been over that for me. It's probably been 20 or 25 years. But American Orange, I mean, I love those tracks. I a zillion races on. I've actually raced more on orange tracks than I did yellow tracks. But
I love the real orange tracks.
Yes.
S's. I don't like the oranges with no S's.
Yep.
And the Windsor that I last raced on was actually a reverse Windsor, but it was still not fun.
I'm talking genuine article American yellow Windsor.
All right. Favorite raceway you ever been to?
Favorite raceway I've been to?
Yep.
Favorite raceway. Well, when you say favorite, like what do you mean in what way? I mean
favorite raceway itself. And once you walk in the doors, what's your favorite raceway you've ever seen?
Well, I'm going back to like in the early 90s when I spent a week in California. And like I went to so many beautiful, spotless, clean, raceways you could eat off the floor. But I'm drawing blanks on names of those raceways now. I mean there was like a place called Rad Tracks. There was a place in Beverly Hills. I can't remember the name of it. But, these tracks were just beautiful. The raceways were beautiful. So, and then I guess if you say favorite track or favorite raceway that I feel the most comfortable when I walk into, and there's been lots of them, but currently, like when I walk into fast tracks at Fremont, Ohio with the little American black track, because I love racing on that track too.
Yeah.
It's just this nice, cozy, little tight atmosphere. And I walk in and feel at home, and I feel at home on the track. And so.
Okay.
Next question.
Coolest city you ever visited racing?
Bay Area, Northern California, San Francisco.
Okay.
I've been all around the Bay. I went out there and spent almost a week going around the loop to all the tracks, and San Francisco is just so cool. There's so many things to do in that area. It just never ends there.
All right. The most amount of money or the largest prize you've ever won racing?
That I personally won or was part of winning? the race that it was the Canadian National Championship in '93, I think it was, at the Toronto Auto Show. And that's a story, but I think I came home with $3,750 from that race. Now, I was involved in winning a 1988 Fiero GT.
The classic Fiero story. You can tell the story. A lot of people probably haven't heard it. So.
And then Randy won the '98 USRA Nationals that paid $3,000 cash to win. So
tell the Fiero story real quick. That's a cool
Fiero story. Okay, so JP Van Rossum, and I don't remember if this. I think this was '89.
It was late '80s for sure.
He had the IMCA World Championships up at Grand Raceway. Actually, he owned the raceway. When he first had I think he had the first Worlds in '88 and he had the second one in '89. So Jerry owned the raceway in '88.
We're talking Jerry Coolidge.
Jerry Coolidge. And Sam may be messed up on this a little bit, but '89, JP had bought it from Jerry. Because I remember, believe it or not, and this is only too fitting, when Jerry sold the raceway, he started selling used cars, if you can. I mean, he was a used car salesman. So
I could never see Jerry selling used cars. Come on now.
No, never. So at one of the, and again, I'd have to look it up, but JP was going to have a race where he gave away 2 Fieros. There was a red non-GT Fiero, and there was a gold-colored Fiero GT. And that was the last year they made Fieros. And JP apparently just bought them at the local Pontiac dealership. At the time, so it had to be the second year because John Ford and his wife was running the raceway for JP. So they had, JP was involved with Eurotoy, which was a company that would compete against Parma Ferrari to run cars. So they had a 32nd scale car and a 24 scale car, and they were production stamped and formed chassis, and they came with Mira. I think the 32nd scale car had a Mira Wasp motor in it, and the Eurosport 24th probably had a Group 12 motor in it. So he had classes for those cars. So special promotion was 32nd scale race for people to go to the raceway, buy a car, and then you would qualify. Or you qualify, you do qualifying laps. And I don't remember if this thing ran 6 months or 4 months, but this was just this long promotion for the raceway to try and get new people in and sell them these cars. You'd buy your car, you'd go out, and you'd qualify. So at the end of, actually up to the day of the race, the top 8 fastest qualifiers would be in a race to race and win a Fiero. And those drivers were non-ranked, not on the IOC list of JPs. So, like, at that time, I couldn't race, Mike Swiss couldn't race, Koford. I mean, all the great, good drivers, they could not race in that race because it was for new people and people that weren't on the list.
Right.
So when the rules came out for this, I'm like looking, I'm like, my wife at the time, I'm like, she can go for this because she's not listed. And then I had my friend Steve Pepler, who was a pretty good racer, and he had quit racing for a while. I called him up. I said, hey, I got a deal for you. I said, they're going to have this race in Chicago. Here's the deal. You go up there and you qualify. 8 fastest qualifiers will make the race on the day of the race. I said, the deal is I will build you the car, and I said, I'm pretty sure you can win this race. If we win the car, we'll bring it home, we'll fire sell it for $7,000, and we'll split the $7,000. So he says, I'm in. So
sold. Count me in. Let's go.
So he went to Chicago like a couple weeks after that, and I think he was like the fastest qualifier. And this was months before the race. So,
and your wife at the time, did she qualify too?
Well, she didn't. We didn't go up early to do that. Okay, so I know that Steve remained at the top of the list for a couple of months. Slowly was getting bumped down, and I think come day of the race he was down to 4th or 5th. my wife qualified into it. So Steve was on his way up, and he got there, and he was going to make it, but he went ahead and qualified and kind of bumped himself back up. I think he wound up second fastest overall. So I had him in the race, and I had my wife in the race, and I had and Jerry Coolidge's daughter Yvonne was in the race, and Mark Matei, who is a longtime Chicago slot racer, he was in the race, and he owned Cycle Smithies, which was a bike shop, and they had an old American Red in the basement, and they used to race wing car races there and stuff in the early 80s. And Mark wasn't at that time, he wasn't like a real serious racer, but he was good enough. He had a shot at winning that thing. So
right.
So they started the race, and Steve got out to like a 5-lap lead really quick. And then pretty soon it was like, 6, 7, 8, 9. And JP's announcing the race, and he's announcing the race like Steve and Mark Matei are just like a couple laps apart. But
make it seem interesting.
At the end of the day, I think Steve won by 15 laps. So we won the Fiero, and that race was on Friday night. And the second Fiero was for guys on the list that I'm not going to say they had to win races, but you had to finish in certain spots to be in the top 8 to run for that. And a guy from Czechoslovakia won that race. So there was the gold Fiero and the red Fiero. And I think JP told the Czechoslovakian racer, which one do you want? And he says, I want the red because the red represents Czechoslovakia. So we wound up with the better car. So Steve had to stay over to go get the title and stuff changed on Saturday morning. So I drove his car back, and my wife drove our car back to Fort Wayne Friday night. And then Steve says, well, I'll call you when I get home on Saturday. Well, Saturday I don't hear from him. Sunday I don't hear from him. Monday I don't hear from him. So everyone's like, oh, you're getting hosed. So Tuesday, Steve calls and he says, we got a problem. And I said, what's the problem? And he says, well, I want to keep the car. I said, well, you bring me $3,500 cash and it's all yours. So he brought me $3,500 cash, and he kept the car. He had the car for a long time. I mean, he didn't drive it every day. It was kind of a special car, but so that's the story on winning the Fiero.
Now, we could probably do a whole show on JP Van Rossum stories.
Oh, phew.
Easily. And for those who don't know, JP also owned a Formula One team.
Yeah, and you know what? I went to the first Worlds and did good. In the second Worlds, I went and there was a misunderstanding on rules, and I got pissed, and I left after a day or two and went back home. And I was going to stay the whole week, but I can't say anything negative about JP. I mean, I went over to Europe twice and raced at his races and raced at 2 of his races here, and he's a controversial individual and
colorful character.
Yeah, very colorful. He has never done me wrong. I mean, the whole deal in Chicago when I left really wasn't – it was his race, but some people that he trusted to do some things changed things and had a profound effect on my racing program. And I was going to have to mount all new bodies and paint all new bodies, and no, we're pulling out. So I went home. So, but I don't hold JP responsible for that. That was just something that happened and who that person was to blame for that, I will go unnamed. But I mean,
all right.
Again, that person, and we're cool, but I mean, it was just.
All right. So we'll move on to the next question then. All right. Have you ever raced against a celebrity? If you've raced against multiple people, who is the most famous person you've raced against?
Wow. I don't think I've ever raced against any celebrities. And the closest celebrity that I've raced with, I can't remember his name. I'd have to look it up. But there used to be a guy in California who was a bodyguard. And we had some Parma Challenge Cup races out there in Southern California. And I went out there and he raced with us. And he was actually a bodyguard. And the last client that he was bodyguard for was, I think, Shannon Doherty, the girl from Beverly Hills 90210. He had just got done with an assignment with her, but he was a bodyguard for several celebrities. So
Okay.
Now I've built slot cars for like Bobby Labonte and Terry Labonte and Cale Gale and
Okay. Cool.
So I mean, are they celebrities? I mean, they're NASCAR guys, but
Yeah.
so yeah.
All right. So, who's the best racer you've ever raced against?
Well, in what genre? I mean, there's been, you can't, probably the best.
Just who's the one guy, no matter what genre you're in, when you
Okay.
track, you said shit.
Paul Goronsky. And I'll tell you why Paul Goronsky. And Paul Goronsky's a scale guy, okay, but the first time I raced again was at the 93 Nats. His first Nats, he had bad luck. Several months later, I went to California for the Parma Challenge Cup race we had out there. And we had a Eurosport race, like, as a side event. And, I was pretty good with Eurosports at that time and stuff. And, I mean, Paul was like, I mean, he had got so much better in 6 months' time. And like, I'm like, you know what? He needs to be racing for me. So I kind of like quit Eurosport racing, let him do that, helped him. And then if you want to, I always say, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that I think in the last 50 years, I always say I think that Jan Limpak is probably the best all-around, best driver that I raced with and raced against.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he in all that time, he has won in every type of slot car he's raced. I mean, you have a lot of specialists, like Buford, he's a wing car specialist. I'm not saying he can't drive other stuff, but that's
right. I know what you're saying.
Paul does a scale thing, and you've got several guys, like Duran. I mean, he's kind of a flexi only. I mean, he's more retro now, but at one time he was all about the stamp steel cars, and so you've had a lot of specialists, and then you've had guys branch into other things. But so I think Limpak he raced basically from 60 something up until 2001, 2002, and
okay.
he won in everything he ever raced.
So we'll go with Paul Goronsky and Jan Limpak.
Yeah.
Okay. So outside of actual racing itself, what would you consider to be your biggest accomplishment in the industry or hobby?
Wow. See, this is a rapid fire question, and I have to go Gatling gun slow on thinking of a response. So my biggest accomplishment outside of racing?
Like when it's all said and done, you're out of racing. What's the one thing you look back on and say, I was really proud to be involved in this or do this or something like that? Something you'll always be proud of doing.
Okay. And I don't want this to sound like conceited or something, but okay, my two biggest things was helping other people. Okay, and like some people may say, well, he never helped me, or he never, whatever. But helping other people, and helping other people, I look at it two ways. I've had people race for me, on my team or whatever, or when I was at Parma, helping those people do better, win races, kind of reach their dreams or their goals. Okay, so, but I think the biggest thing is being involved in running or helping run organizations to give more people better ways to race and organized racing. I think that's good because not too many people ever want to do that, step up and be in charge or be part of a group that runs things. So that puts so much joy into other people's hearts and heads and gives them something to shoot for. So
okay,
I think that's probably what I would say.
All right, we got three more. All right, the most popular selling out-of-sight body ever.
Probably the out-of-sight Corvette wing car body.
It's been around for a long time.
Well, it came out in like 19, '86 or '87.
They still race it.
And they still race it, you know, and it's I mean, lots of body painters use them for ready to run cars, like for flexies and box stock cars. So that would that has to be. I mean, I know Frank sold tons of them before I bought Out of Sight, and I still have sold tons of them since I bought Out of Sight. So, you know, but that's a long period of time. But yeah, that'd be the best selling Out of Sight body that I can think of.
Single most interesting person you've ever met slot car racing.
Single most interesting person I've ever met slot car racing.
Would that be JP?
He's interesting, but I'm gonna go with Bob Haynes of RH Distributing.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you why, and he has been around since almost the beginning of it, and he has seen everything and been, I don't want to say part of everything, but the knowledge and the things he can remember and bring up, and you know, he's bought so many companies out, and I mean, Bob, whatever happened to so and so? Oh yeah, he did this and he did. I mean, he just like very interesting. So at least to me.
All right. So the final question is, what is the funniest story you can tell us?
Funniest story. Wow. I thought we told some pretty funny stories last week, but see, in some of my stories, not many people can relate to. So, because they weren't there, or maybe it didn't make magazines or something like that. So, wow. Can I think about this and answer it next week?
All right, we'll give it to you next week. All right. So you got anything else you want to add for this week?
No, you know what? I just thought of the fun. Well, okay, it's slot car related. It goes back to that trip in England. Okay, and this, I'm not going to say this is X-rated, but it's bordering that. But
okay,
we went to a pub. Part of that trip was we spent a couple of days in Bournemouth, which is on English Channel. Kind of an old English town, old city. I mean, like, we went and had lunch in a department store in this city, and we ate in the basement, just like you would do in the 60s in the United States. I mean, to me, going to that town was like stepping back in time 30 years. So between our hotel and downtown, we had passed this pub on a little two-lane English kind of country road. So somebody said, well, we need to go there and have dinner tonight. So they didn't open until 6 o'clock. So we went into town, and we ate downtown, and we went out to the boardwalk or the pier, and stuck our feet in the English Channel, and there was an arcade on the pier, and so we made a day of it down there, and then we went on the way back. We're going to go to the pub. So we go into the pub, and for people who've never been into a pub in England, I don't know if it's still this way today, but most pubs is actually the pub owner's house, or they look at it as, when you come to my pub, you're coming into my house. A lot of pub owners live in the same building that their pubs are in, and this was one of those. It was like a 2-story kind of house building. There was a pub, and there was a tiny restaurant in the back. So we go into the pub, and we're there to eat dinner, and we got there a few minutes early. So it's me and Paul and his wife and Tracy and Philip, and I think that was all of us. So we walk in, and we walk in the door, and there's a wall, and there's a little hallway that goes back to the restaurant. So we're standing against this wall, all of us, side by side, and we're just leaning against the wall, and we're talking. The pub is full of people at the bar, probably 20 people. And it's like in England, they get off work and they go straight to the pub. It doesn't matter if you're male or female or what age you are. You get off work, you go to the pub. So these people are at the bar, and they're sitting there drinking, and we're talking. So there's one guy he's sitting at a stool, and his back is to us. He turns around and he goes, "Yanks." We're like, yeah, because we heard the Yanks thing 100 times in the TV.
Right. You're getting old by now.
So we're like, yep. So he looks at me and he says, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Indiana. And he goes, well, where's Indiana? I said, Indianapolis 500. Oh, okay. So he knew about the Indianapolis 500, so he could relate. So Tracy's next to me, and he asked Tracy, and, Tracy's got the Chinese look going on and everything.
Right.
He says, where are you from? And Tracy says, San Francisco. And this guy jumps up off his stool, runs over, and he puts his ass up against the wall. Oh, San Francisco. Like keeping his butt hidden from somebody from San Francisco, like
right.
the gay thing or whatever. So that was funny. So then, I thought Tracy was going to kill him. and so then we go into the restaurant, and this restaurant is this tiny room, 5 or 6 tables, the old metal type 50s, 60s kind of tables, and nothing matches. There's a yellow table and a red table and a black. It's just, he picked this table up at this garage sale and this one over here. So our waitress was a young girl, and she was really shy, and she had to deal with these Americans. So, we were nice to her and everything. So we all ordered, and she came over afterwards and asked if we wanted dessert, and they had a chalkboard, and on the chalkboard it said, tonight's special, spotted dick.
Okay.
So she comes over and asks me, and I said, can you tell me what spotted dick is? And she just turns bright red, and she doesn't know what to say, because she knows that our spotted dick would be different than their spotted dick, which spotted dick is a pudding, a dessert. And so we embarrassed her, and she got over it. And then another funny story is once we got over to Southampton, we stayed at, I don't remember what hotel it was. It was like a Holiday Inn or something. And that was actually when we got to Southampton, we were actually like Americanized again, because there was a McDonald's and there was a TGIF Fridays. So we were going to TGIF Fridays every night. And Tracy got to kind of flirting around with this waitress that worked there. So, Monday night, a little flirtation. Second night, a little more flirtation. Well, Wednesday or Thursday, Tracy's down to his boxers dancing in this TGI Friday with this waitress. And so the manager comes over and he goes, that's it. Get your pants on. Get out. And he threw us all out, told us not to come back. So we got thrown out of TGI Fridays for Tracy dancing in his boxers in there.
Way to go, Tracy.
And then there was a night we went to the Leisure Club, which was the Leisure Club, but the Leisure Club.
Right.
So it was part of a kind of a complex that had a movie theater and a restaurant, and they had the Leisure Club was behind it. And when we got there was this line. I kid you not, this line was a quarter mile long. And I thought these people were trying to get in the movie theater. So we went in, ate our dinner, and after we got done, Brian Saunders says, well, let's go to the Leisure Club. Leisure Club? And he goes, that's what all them people were lined up for. Okay, let's go to Leisure Club. So it's Paul and myself and Keith Gibson and Paul and Tracy, and we had Tomato with us. Tomato was another American that went over, but Tomato was probably, 16 or 17 at the time. He was a really good scale racer from Chicago. So we go around back, and they've got the stanchions. They've got the bodyguards or security with the little walkie-talkie watches and all this stuff. So we walk up, and the guy says, we're full up. And Brian says, hey, these guys came from America. We want to go in, da-da-da. Well, we're full up. So Brian keeps working the guy. And he gets on his radio, and pretty soon they're like, okay, we'll let you guys in. So they remove the stanchion, and we start walking through. And I think I was second in line behind Brian. And I'm walking through, and the guy goes, no trainers. I'm like, no trainers? No trainers. No trainers allowed. And I'm like, what's trainers? He goes, no trainers allowed. He's yelling and all this. So then Brian turns around and he says, it's your shoes. And I go, oh, yeah, trainers, gym shoes.
Oh, okay.
Didn't wear any athletic shoes into the – So me and Paul, we both have trainers on. So Brian says, well, step over to my office, and we go to his car. He opens his trunk. He's like, what size shoe do you wear? So he's pulling out these shoes. Here, I think these will look nice on you. So I change my shoes. He doesn't have a size that'll fit Paul. So Tomato couldn't get in because Tomato was underage.
Yeah.
So he tells Tomato, kick them shoes off, dude. So Tomato took his shoes off, and Paul put them on. And Paul gave his shoes to Tomato and said, have a nice walk back to the hotel. So we start going, and then the guy stops me because I don't have the right shirt or something on. Brian's like, come back over to the car. So he's pulling all these shirts out of his trunk of his car. No, that one will get you in. So I had to change my shirt. So we went in, and it was like a techno beat club, and boom, 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 and painters in cages, and I mean, this place was packed. It was pitch black. All the walls were black. I mean, it was just, there's probably 3,000 people in that place.
Right.
Yeah, no trainers. So if you ever, when you talk to Paul, just say, hey, no trainers.
I'm sure he might actually tell he might tell something you might have left out too. So we're asking that story.
Well, and then another story was the night that then Tracy went with the waitress from TGIF. It was like going to be her birthday. She invited him to go to her birthday party, which was 60 miles away. They had rented a bus, and they were going over to some strip joint, because strip joints were, I guess, really rare or hard to find in England. So they had to go 60 miles away to go to the strip club because this girl wanted to go to a strip club on her birthday. So,
wow.
But Tracy went on that trip, and
Tracy had fun anyway. I mean, I don't know how he raced, but he had fun.
Tracy did okay, but Tracy got back way earlier that night than we thought he would. But so
all right, so you want to close out the show and the secret word of the show?
Secret word of the show. I thought about this earlier, and let's just go with legend or legends, means we're having a legend race this weekend. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for being a good sport. My rapid fire section.
Oh yeah.
We'll have to work more on the rapid part next time.
I told you this may not be rapid, so
that's all right.
What am I supposed to come up with next weekend or next week? What was my question?
It was gonna be a funny story, but you gave us.
I already did the funnies. Okay.
But you already gave us one.
Okay.
But you can come up with more. We want to hear them anyway.
Oh well, there's plenty.
Yeah.
So go watch the video, Body Armor and Reinforcing.
Yeah. I
think you'll learn some stuff there, and maybe a few tricks or tips, and hopefully makes your racing program better. So all I got to say is everyone have a good week and weekend, and if you're going racing, good luck, and be safe wherever you go and whatever you do. And we'll see you next Wednesday.
And if you guys are in the Houston area, we're still thinking about you. If you're down in Florida or on the eastern coastline, there's more weather coming in. So, guys, be safe. Thank you guys for listening. Yeah.
Florida's looking next. So,
yeah.
Hopefully that thing swings left or swings big right. But, I mean, it'll go up the Gulf. That's not good either. But hopefully it makes a big left there and I guess goes in the Atlantic. But then it might affect the East Coast. So, it's hurricane season. So.
All right, guys. Once again, if you get a second, please like and share the Facebook page and the YouTube page. Help us spread the slot gossip. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on episode 6.
Goodbye.
See you later.